Hello? Oh goodness me. I hope I'm actually streaming. This thing is playing up. I had to use a different browser. It would not let me sign in through Chrome. So, hi and welcome. Thanks for hanging about. In the commotion, Shadow's decided that she's a part of the live today. Okay, I'm just opening chat, guys. Sorry. Oh, dear me. Hi, guys. Welcome. I'm so sorry. I don't know what happened. Yes, Shadow, we know you're here. Okay? Yes. What a commotion. I'm finally here, yes. No idea what happened or why it happened. But I'm here. I'm here. It's good. It's working out. It's good. I can see I'm live. I'm happy. All right, let's get started. Alrighty. So this is our final week. Oh, dear me. Everything's glitching out on me today. Hello, hello, hello. All right, so I'm just going to start from where I can see. Oh, goodness me. My computer is really hating everything today. Oh, what a pain. Apparently my stream's just okay. I do apologize. I'm not sure what's going on. All right, so I'm just going to start from where I can see. Hello to Kenny, Heather, Helen, Abby, Holly, Bev, Bethann, Janine, Rochelle, Debbie, Barbara. Going all the way down the list until I find someone I haven't. Hi, Dawn. Jo Beth. Who else have we got? Awesome. Kathy, Jen, Joey, Pat. Hi guys, welcome. We've got Miranda and yeah, I keep getting signed out. That was what was going on before. Every time I tried to sign in, it signed me out and it said, oops, there's an error. I'm like, what? No. So I tried it with a different browser and it worked. So really strange. Really strange. And Shadow, yes, she's saying hello. So if you're new, welcome. This is a colour and chat, so there will be chat during this tutorial. And there will also be a giveaway halfway through to Miss Holly. I still have not heard from Enys, so I hope she will contact you soon from last week. So I have not heard. I will. Hopefully she'll be in touch shortly. Kathy. Romper room. Alrighty. Linda, hello. Okay. So, look at my messy board here in the background. All my Copic work. Hi Shannon, welcome. Welcome, come in guys. I was running a little bit late today because of not being able to sign in, so you're not behind. Oh, my pencils need a really good sharpen today actually. I probably should have done that before, but stressing too much about logging in. So today we're going to finish it all off. Hi Sherry. Oh, very exciting. I hope you have a good time. Hi, Loretta. Welcome. Hi, Mrs. Coffee. Welcome. Welcome, welcome. Let's get this lady finished, hey? I feel like it's really dark today too. Let me see if my settings are all correct. Didn't even have time to open that today. Oh, that's probably why. Let's just turn that up a little bit. Oh, hello. There we go. Brightness needs to be adjusted there. And we got no proper focus, so I'm just going to see if that's good. That looks good. I don't know which is better. That one, I think. Alright. Hi. So we're going to do the background and we're going to do the seaweed and her shells. Is that good? Hi Pickle, welcome. Hi Charlotte, welcome. The doggy is good. She's growing up so quickly. She's probably tripled in size since we got her, I think. I can't even fit her on my desk anymore. She's just too big and she doesn't fit under the camera. She's really cute though, and a bit of a handful sometimes, but very cute. Shadow's still not that keen on her. She keeps growling at her, but in all fairness, Nani did chase her and scared her, so she won't go near her now. So there you go. So today we're going to work on a couple of things. I've got a load of different colours here. We're going to play with some shells, and I was going to do a shell a particular way, but I changed my mind this morning, so I have been sort of looking at it, trying to do what I think needs to go where. But I'm just sharpening up all of these pencils because they're all quite blunt from usage. Of course they are. Where are you going? Hi Janet, welcome. Alright, so everyone's just catching up and saying hi. I'm actually going to get started because we have heaps to do. Like totally heaps. Heaps. Alright, I'm going to start with how I love these shells. And I think this one here is one of those as well. So I'm going to do these two shells here the same colour. Hi Candy, welcome. Hi Mia, welcome. So I'm going to be using Carmine Red first. Hi Selena, welcome. And I'm going to do shadows first. So just coming in to that black line there and just flicking all the way up to the top. There's one sitting there and there's also one here behind that part of the shell. Oh, great. Sharpen them and they blunt or break. Oops, somebody's been playing with my eraser. Okay, sorry, when it broke, it broke and went the wrong way. I'm just going to put a little bit of a shadow behind this starfish, which I just realised I didn't actually pick colours for that. That was silly, I missed one. That's right, we'll figure it out, won't we? Then I'm coming over the top of that with some salmon pink, and I'm just going to fill out just a little bit on each side. I'm going to leave a bit of a gap in the middle there for the white so that we've got a little bit of a ridge in the middle and it looks a little bit higher so that the shell looks kind of crinkled and I get crinkled, corrugated maybe, is that the word? And we've got our high points and our low points. So these darker colours are our low points. And then I've got white. So how is everybody? I have had a pretty big week. For those that already know, my dad is okay. I actually haven't spoken to him today. I didn't get a chance before the stream. But he had a bit of an accident at work and it's like fall on his head and ended up with stitches and mighty big bruises and a big headache. So, but yeah, he's doing okay. He was when I spoke to him yesterday. But yeah, I'm just going back over the top again with the carmine red. I love this colour. It's not really red. It's more like a pink. I love it. It reminds me of sunsets. Thanks, guys. Thank you. He it was a bit of a shock, actually. He, yeah. Had to go and pick him up from work and with hubby, and hubby drove his car and we drove him home because the doctor didn't want him to drive, which is fair enough. And I'm just going lightly over those white areas with this salmon pink. And then I'm just going to come back in with the white and just finish it off. It's kind of a bit off there, so I'm just going to move that one across a little bit to the tip. That's better. So that's what's been happening this week. So Enys, if you're watching, check your emails, please. All right, one shell. I'm going to do the same on this one over here. So it's kind of curved sitting behind this one, but I'm going to do the same thing. Putting a little bit of a shadow around the hair area and around this leaf here. Shell here. They're funny looking leaves. Just colouring a little bit of the salmon pink on either side. And then just coming in with the white on those high points. A bit more salmon pink there. A bit more of the carmine red. And then the white in the middle there. Oh, they're so pretty. He's got 5 days off, so it'll be covered by work cover, but he probably only take a few days. I know him. I actually wouldn't be surprised if he wanted to go to work today. He's just like that. It's got to be doing something. He keeps telling me he's got this long till he retires, but I actually don't think he'll ever do it. I think he just likes to have something to do. Okay, now these ones here I'm going to make kind of like a purpley colour. So I've got lavender, a little bit of carmine and white for this. So I've got lavender coming in to these creases. Just like that. On this side. Just lined those lines that were there. Okay, and then the carmine pink, I'm just going to do down that dark patch along the bottom. So just sort of a line. Let's just make it a thicker line. All the way across. Add a tiny little bit on the top there as well. Just going to add that lavender, fill in the space underneath there and fill in the space on the top. And then we're going to go right through the middle with white. So coming down there. It's actually not really the middle, is it? It's sort of off to the side a little bit. So lavender again, just coming up towards that white and coming back the other way. So we want to try and create that nice little highlight section in the middle, and that carmine red just changes the color slightly and makes it look kind of pearly looking, I guess. Pearly looking, is that the word I'm looking for? I missed that. What's going on? What's beautiful? What are you looking at? What am I missing? Oh, the shelves. Cool. Sorry, I missed that little... It is on live chat. I just don't think I'm paying... It's just flicking out really fast. It's not a very large area to be reading from, so the writing disappears really quick. Very pretty, very pretty. I like that. I'm going to do the same thing on these three. So you get to see me do it again and you won't miss it. So coming in with lavender first on either side of the shell and just sort of going into the grooves of the shell. There. First, and then marking down that side there with the carmine red, and then using the white. Oh, actually before we use the white, we're going to use the lavender again and just fill in the edges of it over the top of the carmine red there, blending it in a bit, and then using the white down the middle and just using it to blend out the rest of the shell. Just repeating the steps so that we get some nice rich color and that we're covering over all of the paper too. We don't want to have paper coming through. Oh, now it's not moving at all. Alright, I think we could go a tiny little bit more pink there. I'm just going to go back in with the lavender and pink again. That's good. Moving on to the other one. Lavender first. Really? Shadow saying hello again. She was asleep until someone decided to wake her up. It's so funny, she acts like she doesn't like Nani, but when she's asleep, she goes around looking for her to see where she is. It's actually kind of cute. She's like, I just want to know where you are and make sure you're there and alright, and then she'll move on. Maybe she's just keeping her enemies close, you know, knowing what they're doing. A little bit more carmine red again. Going back in with that lavender. Just to blend that out. Now, if you want to make those grooves a little bit more prominent, you could use any of the other colours that we've kind of been using. We could use the Mediterranean blue, which we were using in the face. I've got a little bit of peacock blue. I might just darken the very edges of it. I'm going to be using this in the actual water in the background, so we can put a little bit of this in there as well, just to darken them up. Hello, you're in my light, madam. Out of my light, madam. Thank you very much. Tail as well, please. Yes, go away. No. Now she's sitting on my mouth, so too bad if I need it. I don't want to go too far in because I don't want to cover up that nice lavender look. It's just on the outside that I've done it. Alright, and the last one over here. What are you doing? Got lavender. Now we have still so much to do. Actually, yeah, I'll just do it on this side now. Done it. It's done. I probably could have done it on the opposite side to show the darker side, but that's fine. White down the middle. And just blending that out. Carmine red again, and then a little bit more lavender. And a little bit more white there too, I think. Okay, now a little bit of that peacock blue. Is that my computer making that noise, Shadow? My computer's making a bit of noise. Don't know what it's doing. Alright, those shells are done. Okay, now this one here, I decided to try something a little bit different. I've got some, not that you can read it, cobalt turquoise. And I'm going to go in and, oh, you missed a little bit of a shell down here. Hang on. Just fill in there with some lavender. I've got a little bit of cobalt turquoise. Just going into the shadows there. And I'm just going to line the edge and each of these lines. Just going to add one in there so that comes around. So what I want to actually do is I want to line up the same line on the opposite side. So we're going to actually draw a line in. So just coming around, following that line, leaving a gap in the middle. Just following that line through and leaving a gap in the middle. So if you were to draw the line straight through, they would reach each other. And we kind of want to do them on a bit of an angle because it's rounded. So we want to kind of follow that round angle. Just adding in some shadows behind the starfish there. Okay, so we've got that in there. Hi Deb, welcome. Alright, so now I'm going to come over the top of that with some aquamarine. And I'm going to come on the top edge of each of those lines. So this is the top edge here. This is the top edge here. So I'm going to do that all the way around. Actually, before I do that, I need to go over the outside here as well, I think. With the turquoise, cobalt turquoise first. Just shaping that shell around. That's better. Now we're going to follow that with this and go on the top edge. So I'm going to come around that edge and just come on top of that line. And then in the middle, well, it kind of is in the middle of the shell. We're going to go on top of that as well. So just following that around and coming to, it's actually the bottom of it, isn't it? I don't know. It's kind of upside down and topsy-turvy. I know what I'm talking about. Gosh. Light aqua. Repeating the same step. So we should have a bit of a gap between these little notches, and also in the middle section there should be a gap. We got spring here. Using the salmon pink, I'm just going to fill in between the green parts now, but trying not to go into the middle section yet. We want to try and keep that middle section as our shiny part of the shell coming around. Just blending over the top of the green with that salmon pink. Okay, so we've got a line now in the middle. If you're using white paper, that's going to be quite prominent already. But because we're using tan tone, I'm going to come over with the white and just make a bit of a curve all the way around to the middle of the shell. So that it looks nice and shiny. Just blending that off. Into the other colours. Shiny shells. I think we need a little bit more of the salmon pink now. Just going to burnish down the paper now too, just pushing down the tooth, making sure we've got nice rich colour. Kind of looks like a bit of a shape of a, I don't know, it's pretty. Just going to re-blend that. with some white. Happy with that. I think I need to add a little bit of carmine red in there though. I'm just going to do a line around the outside there. And just blend that salmon pink over the top of it, just smudging it out. I love actually using, once the paper's burnished down and you put colour over the top, it makes everything really smooth and creamy to go over the top of, and everything blends really nicely. That's better. I might do that in the middle as well. Let's do that around the middle. Just makes that salmon pink sort of pop out a little bit more. That needs more. That's better. Now the colour's really bad. Hang on, let me try that lighting again. You can kind of see it there. It's kind of hard to see there, but you can definitely see colour there. Alright, we're going to do the same on this one up here. Looking fab. Thank you very much, Lee. Yes, spring. I know. We trying to get Nani to go out and go to the toilet this morning. It was like 1 degree outside. Bit crispy. I'm going to have to add some lines into this one because it kind of faded off with that black and grey. Oh, poop. I just broke poop. Just broke it. Just remember to line up on the opposite side. I think we need another one there. Looks good. And then we've got our, that was cobalt turquoise, this is aquamarine. It's coming on the top of each of those. And I'm going to repeat that on the opposite side. A little bit of, oh, thank you, light aqua. I tried to do my best. Sometimes I get taken the wrong way, I think, but yeah. That's life. I've got the salmon pink. And this time I might actually bring the salmon pink over the middle section as well, because the white seems to cover quite well anyway. But I really want to get that colour in there this time. Don't want to lose that. A little bit of the carmine red again, just around the outside. And just on the middle circle as well. Just blending that out a bit. And then I've got white down the middle. Just blending that off so it doesn't look like a line. It's more like a highlight. So how many of you got to join in on a challenge on Tuesday? That was quite interesting. I had a bit of fun with that. I'm going to have Laura on with May possibly. I haven't actually asked May, but if she's watching, on next time we do it. I'm going to use, what did I say? White paint pen is what I want. I'm going to use a bit of Posca, and I'm just going to highlight that a little bit more. A couple of dashes. Do the same there. Then do the same the middle of these ones. Just a couple of spots up there. Very pretty and shiny. If you're using white paper, this will help a lot too to make that white stand out a bit better. Okay. All right, 2 left, and I don't actually know what I'm going to do with those, so let's just do them. I'm thinking we might put a little bit of the blue that we're going to be doing in the outside into the middle of that. I've got a couple of different blues. I've got some Copenhagen blue. I don't think your Enys's original image was as bright as mine. I actually quite like hers too, it's nice. There's a couple of little lines and details around some of it. Just going around those. I think I'm going to use a fair bit of salmon red in this one as well. Just going to fill in all the way around. I'm going to kind of leave a little bit of a highlight following off from those star sections there as well. I think just going all the way around the edges. Like that. Now on the opposite side, I'm going to do out towards the edges, coming down those blue lines. See some beautiful, brilliant orange red starfish here in Australia. Just little ones in green and blue and purple, loads of different coloured starfish. I've got salmon pink just to fill in the rest of the area. So I'm hoping the blue just made the edges stand out that little bit, and just separated it from the shell in the background in particular. Give us a little bit of a shadow. We're doing Dawn. Let me find it. Dawn Davidson. We're doing a Dawn Davidson image, so we haven't worked out all of the details yet. She has given me an image that we will be doing, which is actually in her Etsy store, so it's one of her new ones. So that's what we're going to be doing. She's just it's a portrait. And I think next month is Polychromos month, but I don't know. I'd really like to do another Pablo one. I think that would be a lot of fun. Obviously, we'd have the conversions too. Just going in the middle with that as well. This is a salmon pink. We'd have the conversions for Prisma and Poly still, but I'd really like to do another one. I really enjoyed doing the Pablo one. We did an Alina Lazareva image with Pablo's a little while ago. I've just got white and I'm just lightening up that highlight spot in the middle and also down the middle of each of the arms of the starfish. I'm going to use white gel pen to go in and put some details in. I'm just going to pop a couple of spots in here and there. Most starfish aren't smooth, they're kind of textured. I think if you wanted, you could go in with a darker red and go over the top of that. Because I didn't do a conversion for that, I'm just going to leave it. I think we need, actually we might use some of the colours that we used last time because we've already done conversions for those. So I'm going to add something in. No, I haven't. The blue and salmon pink, it's cool. I just want to add in the dark purple, I think, that we used in the skin here. I think I need to add that in here as well, just to balance it up a little bit, because we've got dark purple here and we've got all these pinks and salmon. I think I need to add some blue and purple up here. I'm going to turn it because it's painful. So I'm just going to go around with the dark purple. So it's not on this week's list, but it is on last week's. I've also posted those in the learning section of this colour along. I like to put them in there so that they can stay there and you don't have to keep going back to find the events. You can just go back into the learning section and you can find all of the units and things in there, which have got the links to the videos, and I think it will just make it a little bit easier for people to find things at a later time. It also makes it easier for me to find it so I can show people where it is. Just doing a little bit of light pressure in some of those darker areas that are marked. And I've just come around all of those ridges there. Now I'm going to add in, I've got Copenhagen blue again. A little bit of that. I love shells. I collect Carey shells. I think they're beautiful. We get these tiny little Carey shells here in Victoria. I don't know. I think they're quite large in Queensland. Add a little bit of, we're going to be using this in the water as well, Caribbean Sea. I'm actually going to leave this sort of line here down the middle for white. And I'm going to add a little bit more of the salmon pink, just a little bit on the very edges. Just blending it out a little bit. And then white. Thank you. And white I'm going to use just to blend everything out. Just going in with lighter pressure in these coloured areas because I don't want to make them too opaque, but I do want to blend them so they're nice and smooth. So if I go in with too much pressure, I'm going to remove the wax that's already on the page and it's just going to look white. Just smoothing off all the paper. And just coming through the middle. Really? Shining, shining, shining. Couple little spots. Just going to put some little spots on her hair. Just flecks of water, flecks of bubbles, whatever, but make it look kind of sparkly. That one looks like a line, not a dot. I'm just going to scratch that off and make it a dot. Cat hair shadow. It's everywhere. Kind of makes it look sparkly. We missed a shell. Just down here. So a little bit of the lavender. Sparkle, yep. What's going on? Oh, Linda, that's so good. Carmine red, more lavender, just blending over the top of that, leaving our gap in the middle. And using white to blend the shiny part. And I used the this one, which is not very sharp, peacock blue. Is that the one I used? Or did I use the, yeah, I'm pretty sure I used this peacock blue. Just around the outside. Just repeated the same process then, just to make sure I had plenty of colour on and that the tooth of the paper is nice and smooth and flat. There we go. And a couple of lines in there with the white paint pen. A couple of dots to bring it all together. Bring it on, bring it on now. Sorry, it's in my head. Don't even know why. Must have heard it recently. Random mind I have. Okay, I'm happy with that. Looking good. Let's do seaweed. Oh, we're steaming ahead. I'm not in Heather Valentine's group anymore. That's cool. Anyway, I've got some cobalt turquoise. Just gonna line down the middle of the seaweed. I'm gonna put some shadow color, so shading directly at the bottom here. Also, it's got a bit of a wave in it, so I want to kind of put a little bit of colour in the deepest part of that. So it looks like it's coming down, up, down, up, and then back down into the hair. No, that's okay. All good. Oh, good. All right, and they're going to do the same on the other side. So we've got a couple of pieces here, and we've got some hair overlapping it, so we want to put some shadows behind the hair as well. So we'll start with putting those in first, so just shading lightly. I say lightly because this is quite a dark colour and I want to make sure it blends in nicely with the other colours that we're going to use. So coming up the middle there, adding a little bit of shading at the top for the dip, and then we're coming up, and this is going to be fairly light here because it's on the top and that's bending over, so there's going to be a bit of a shadow behind there and underneath it. So we want to shade underneath the hair again, there, and that's kind of coming down. This will be actually up, so I'm only going to do a little bit of shading just behind the hair for that bit, and then we're going to do more shading at the bottom and underneath here. And also through the middle. I'm going to go through the bubbles for now. Thank you. So we're using the same colours or similar colours we used in the eyes now in the seaweed. So we get a little bit of that through there. We've also used a bit of it in the shell. So we've kind of married everything together. So there's something on the page that's covering like each sort of side or angle of the page. We've got the colours kind of matching. The only one that's not is the salmon, which we haven't got any down here, but that's not too bad because she's down the bottom there. I like to try to put all the same colours in the image, but kind of have them so they balance a page out a little bit. So your eyes aren't looking at one particular thing, they're kind of looking at her directly then. I'm just making that a dip now because there's a fair bit of hair there, so I'm just shading all of that. We're going to leave this as a highlight here and just coming out under the hair. I'm going to shade all that in as well. Going a bit firmer into the middle section. Down the bottom here. So let's look at the waviness here. Got a mountain, a dip, mountain, a dip, mountain, a dip, mountain, and a dip. Did you see how I did that? Following the line. That was higher there, so that was part of a dip. Coming around, another one. And then straight down the middle. So we want those higher sections to look lighter. Put a little bit of dark down the bottom there as well. I got a whistle in my nose. I don't know, hay fever's been really bad here this last week. Love the lilac shells. What did you forget to do? Okay, we're going to fill in the gaps. I've got aquamarine next. May as well start at the bottom because I'm already there. I'm going to blend over the top of that, and I'm going to blend a little bit further out towards those little highlighted spots. Just coming down the middle on either side of that as well. Doing the same here. Going towards the middle. So what will happen is we'll gradually fill in colour until there's no page left. What are you doing, Shadow? She's sniffing around. Just going over the top of the bubbles for now. What are you guys talking about? Taking snapshots with your iPhone? Or iPad, I should say. And on this side, just repeating. I'm not being very neat. I'm just kind of roughly going in and doing a rough layer, because each layer that I lay on, it's going to just get smoother and smoother. Next color I have is light aquamarine, and it's not my last color. I'm going to use a little bit of light green, which is slightly different to the aqua colors, but I want to add a really nice light part as well. So I'm not going to cover over this completely yet. Just leaving a small patch or area where I'm going to be adding in a little bit of that really light green. Each color goes over the top of the other color, so you're making sure that you add it into your areas where there's no color as well, but also over the top of all of the other areas we've already colored. So we're blending them together. Hi Cheryl, welcome. Hi Nichols, welcome. Diane, hello, I missed you before. Anyone that's popped in and I've missed, hello, welcome. Come and join in the fun. I'm trying to hurry this through because we've still got all of that water to do in the background and I really need to get it all finished today for you. So I'm kind of zooming ahead and I haven't been chatting very much, just mumbling to myself actually. So I apologize, peoples. Having a mumble day. I'm going to use the light green and I'm going to go into those lightest areas and over the rest of all of the seaweed section there, and we should be able to see it now all blending in together. We should still have some nice highlights and midtones. There's still paper tooth there too. I'm not ready to finish the tooth off yet. I'm going to do another layer. So coming over the lighter areas first and then just blending out over those darker areas as well. So we've gone away from just aqua now. We've added a little bit of, I don't even know. It's like a, any ideas? It's not, it's like aqua, but it's not, they're different. If I'd only had that, I would say it was like an aqua. I don't know why. Different green with blue, maybe. I don't know how to explain it. It's just different. Okay, before we move on, I want to put some bubbles. So I've got Copenhagen blue. I'm just going to come around the bubble. All the way around it. And just going a little bit darker underneath it. So it's got a bit of a shadow. I think that's the only one that's on there, isn't it? It does look like. That's actually on the, cool. Cool, makes my life easier. A little bit of cobalt turquoise, excuse me, just inside the bubble where the darker section is, and then just blending that out with white. I'll just zoom in a little bit so you can see it. There's only one of them, so it's not a huge deal what you end up doing. Just going over with white. Just remember to do a bit of a highlight. A couple little spots around the outside. Now, people were saying to me that their gel pen, the color comes through. This is what happens when you put gel pen over pink. It goes, or purple and pink. It goes pink. Just going to redo that one. The other ones are fine, just a couple of them seem to bring it through and that's fine. I could cover it over with a bit of gouache, or the Copic white. The Copic have got like a white ink, which also is opaque and the colour doesn't come through, apparently. Okay, zooming back out, we're going to repeat all of those steps again. I'm using the Strathmore Tantone mixed media paper. Let me grab it. This is the one I'm using. Take a screenshot. Starting with cobalt turquoise in the middle, putting a little bit more pressure down now. Get that nice and dark. Adding in the middle of each of those shadow areas. I need to go just around the leaf as well. Or the seaweed. It's still a leaf, isn't it? A blade. I don't know. Kind of reminds me of grass. Could be a blade of grass. Just making sure I cover over that black line. I don't want it to show through. So coming up the middle first. So we're repeating it so that we're adding layers on and we can flatten out the tooth of the paper without it looking rough. It should look nice and smooth when we're finished. Just coming around the outside as well with that just to line it out a bit. Excuse me. Give me a sec and I'll grab it. Oh. You can get it in lots of different sizes too, which is kind of cool. You can do larger or smaller. This is 12 by 9 by 12. There's a link for it. I got the mixed media one because it's the only one I could get at the time, but I'm kind of glad that I did because I can use all pencils on it, and also I could use watercolor. I did a picture using this paper with one of Isabella's images. It was a neo color one. It came out really awesome actually. I'll see if I can grab that for you in a minute and show you. And also we're going to do a giveaway too. I've just kind of skipped over the time there, haven't I? I picked up the wrong color. Where's my, there it is. Thinking, why is this not dark? That's why. It's the next lightest color. Durr. It must be time to have a bit of a break then, hey? If I'm picking up the wrong color. Just making sure that I'm lining over the top of the black. And just going into the shadows. Trying to miss that bubble now that we've finished it. Alright, let's do, I have an Epson Workforce WF7710. Now, if you have a look in the link under my video, there's a big thing that says My Kit. A lot of that's this stuff that we're talking about now. I've just chucked it all in the kit so you can see all of the links and all of the products that I actually do use most of the time. I've tried to put everything in there. I tried to put Aussie links and American links, but it's really hard because some things you can only get on US or UK, so I've just put the links that I could find for you guys. And I also put a link for the, I'm pretty sure my printer, there's a kit for my actual tech stuff that I use, programs that I use, computer that I've got, things like that too. So if you want to check it out, it's in the kit. And it is in my description. It's also, if you go to my Instagram account, it's also in my link tree, which wasn't working last time, but I checked it and it seems to be working now, so hopefully you can grab it from there as well. Now, I'm going to put on the giveaway rules and I'm going to do a giveaway. Last one. So let's do the rules. You guys are so funny. Oh dear. Just gonna find the other image I did. I ended up doing the image on for patrons, I think. I may have done a speed colouring, I cannot remember. It was such a long time ago. Alright, so pick one number between 1 and 100. Only one number per person. First person to call the number owns that number. No chatting during number calling until winning number is drawn. No numbers before the words go, 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 or after stop, stop, stop. Will be counted. Oh, goodness me. That was a mouthful. And the number closest to the winning number without going over it wins. Make sure you're on top chat and not live chat. Make sure you click on the little arrow at the top of the chat box. Usually it's right at the top, and change it to live chat. Any giveaway or promotion is in no way sponsored, endorsed, or administered by, let's just say YouTube, because that's the most important one. Alright, I'm going back to my screen now. That's the image that I did on Tantone paper, and I used Neo colors for that one. So the whole image was done with Neo colors and white gel pen. Loads of fun, and as I was saying, the reason the mixed media is really good is because you can do water-based products on it. You can also use Copics and things like that as well. Just a warning though, with Copics, they aren't very bright, they go really dull on it. But as you can see, the Neo colors, the yellow just stands off the page really well. I really enjoyed using them on there, so just so you can see it, that tutorial is on Patreon. Okay, so let's just get rid of that one now, and let's go back to the giveaway. I have no rules out. All right, my new microphone is massive and it takes up all this space on my desk. I'm gonna have to find somewhere to put it. All right, guys, everybody ready? Not yet, Abby. I want readies. I got a few. Got a few already. We've got a few watching, so I kind of expected a few more than that. Ah, here we go. Another ready. Awesome. No numbers yet, peoples. Just wait. Hi, Hillary. We're just about to start the giveaway. So those that have already won something in the last 3 weeks, not to enter as well because you've already got an image. But we're going in the draw for one PDF copy of one of her images from her Etsy store. Alrighty, here we go, peoples. No talking during the number calling. Here we go. Go, go, go. I just get random.org up on my phone ready to go as well. One number per person between 1 and 100. And I'm just setting a timer as well. For a minute. Chuck a number in, Melissa, before you miss out. That was real Aussie speech, then speak, talk, whatever. I've got can't even talk now. Aquamarine, and I'm coming over the top of the cobalt turquoise now. Really starting to blend all these colours in together. We want them to look nice and smooth, and we want the blend to kind of be a little bit seamless if we can. Not always possible, and that's fine. Got a few numbers, almost time. Okie dokie, quickly get your number in before it. Okay. Alright, let me just draw the winning number. So, generated between 1 and 100, generate. The winning number is 97. So, who is closest to 97 without going over it? Rochelle is on the opposite end of the scale and has number 1. So, it's not Rochelle. Sorry. Alright, who's next up on the top there? So we had a 75, we had 74s below it, so 82. Christy is the closest to it. Is everyone in agreement? Oh, I spelt it wrong, did I? Oops, sorry, Christy. Congratulations! Christy, if you could email me which image from Enys' store that you would like, and I will email it off to Enys and she will get it to you. Hopefully, Holly, you'll get yours soon too. And if she doesn't contact me within the next few days, I'll try other means to get in contact with her as well. But here is my email. So send me an email, lovely, lovely. Have you got a clue of what you might like to get? We'd all like to know. We'd like to know. Yeah, Holly, sorry, doll. I have emailed her twice already, but she still hasn't got back to me. I don't know. It will happen. Now, back to it. We've got a lot to do. We've still got the water to do yet. I'm using aquamarine and I'm just blending out these seaweed areas. Just a little bit underneath there. Just getting closer and closer to filling up all of the tooth of the paper. just at the bottom here. And next colour we've got, oh no worries Helen, you too. Hi Kimmy, and also welcome Melissa, I did see you there before. Did you grab my email address there as well, Christy? It's also in the description as well. Coming over with light aqua, and this time we've only got that little section that we're going to leave. Everything else now should be pretty much blended off. If it's not, we've got that one more colour to go over with, which we can finish blending with. I find that doing 2 layers gives it a little bit more depth, and it makes the colour a little bit richer and smoother. It's looking good. Just looking good. As long as your paper will take it, layers are good. Some paper's not that great with layering, and you get lots of dust, and quite often, especially with Prismas, you'll just get the colour just ripping up. It won't actually adhere to the page anymore, and it kind of just takes away the colour that you've already done underneath. Then you know you've done too much. And just finishing up the top here. One good thing about Prismas is that if you've got a nice light hand, even if you've burnished down the paper, you can still layer colour on top of that. Gently on top of the other wax, and just sort of makes it nice and creamy, and just works really well. Oh, it's so good to nearly finish it. I know some of you guys are like, I just want to finish it now. And I kind of get a little bit like that too, actually, when it comes to the end of a colour along. It's like I just want to get it done now. Let's finally see it finished. Because it's looking so good. Alright. Oh, if you've got gremlins in your phone, Cheryl, my phone's possessed. It does silly things. I've got light green now. It does all sorts of weird things. My iPad is even worse. My iPad opens Siri and does all sorts of weird things. It's an iPad mini 2, so it's quite old. I've had it for quite a few years, and it's just really glitchy now. It's the only thing I'm finding with Apple products is they don't update the older stuff anymore, and it just gets impossible. The apps won't stay open, and it's just not fair. To me, it doesn't seem fair. Just going to add a tiny little bit of white just on that highlight spot. Just to lighten that up a little bit. And just blending it all off. There's our seaweed. Let's pop some more cobalt turquoise just down the middle there. Darken that up. Okay, we're going to repeat. A little bit of white over the highlights. Just to lighten them up a little bit. Good mixture of colour there. And just down the middle again with that cobalt turquoise. I think that goes in really well with her eyes. I'll just zoom back out again so you can see it almost finished there. Look at that, I get pushed off to the side. It's because where my camera's hanging. So far so good. A little bit of white. Back to light green. And then cobalt turquoise down the middle. So I've seen quite a few coming up in the Facebook group. Post them up when you're done. Tag me in them. Tag Enys as well. I'm sure she'd love to be tagged and seen in those. Post them in your groups. Share them around. I've made a playlist for the videos, so if you want to come back to them and work on them later, you can. I've made a playlist of most of my tutorials, so you should be able to go back and check that out. And I'm in the process of sorting out all of the color lists for it so that they're all posted in the units with their units in my group as well. So but in future they'll all be on Patreon as well, so if you don't have Facebook, you'll be able to get them on Patreon because they're made public so everybody can see them. Alright, I'm happy. I'm just going to do one more line down the middle there, the cobalt turquoise. And we need to start the water. Thank you. It was Janet, yeah? It is me, Janet. Alright. Now we're going to do bubbles. Let's do those first before we go into the background because we want to get those down and done. Okay, I've got Copenhagen blue. Excuse me. We might start with this one down here because it's the one that's not done down the bottom here. Just going to go around the outside there. Going to put a little bit of the cobalt turquoise inside to make a dark patch. I'm going to go around the inside of the bubble with white all the way around. Coming over the blue. I'm just going to zoom in so you can see it. And then I'm just going to fill out, blending out all the way around. So coming over the top of the turquoise as well. Okay. Paint pen, going around the bubble in the inside part mainly. And let's put some little spots in there as well. It's a tiny one, but we get the idea. See this same thing? We're going to try to do the same thing on the bigger ones. There's a big one up here in the corner. Let's do this one. I don't want to turn my page, but I don't want to lean on that. It's still wet. Okay. If I lean on it, it shouldn't be too bad. So coming around the circle with Copenhagen blue, or whatever blue that you're using. A little bit darker on the bottom. Then I've got some of the cobalt turquoise. I'm going to create a little bit of a shadow on the bottom. Coming around the inside of the bubble with white. And then just over that blue just to smudge it out a little bit so it doesn't look like such a defined line. And I'm going to blend over the top of the green and just smudge it out into the bubble. Just smudging that all the way around. Night, Charlotte. My bubbles. Back to Disney again. I don't know. Can't help myself, sorry. So guys, I'm going to join the Victorian colour along that's coming up in September. I think it'd be a bit of fun. Maybe do a Hannah Lynn image and maybe a Alina Lazareva image, I think. It's going to be a pain. I think I need to go around that bubble with a bit of these ones on the hair with a little bit of that Copenhagen blue. Add some of that in there. The top here. If you're having trouble with the bubbles, use a template. I have this template with loads of different size circles on it. It's like a drafting tool of some sort, graphics tool. Going around the outside of the bubbles first. Now, I did say last time when I did the background I was going to do a border around it. The reason for that is because I don't want to be trying to colour all the way on the outside here because it can be really daunting. So I'm going to just grab a ruler that I have, which I get out of the packet. It's a long one. It's a long one. I'm just going to draw a border around it. And I'll actually trim that off. Actually, I won't trim it off because I won't be able to frame it or anything if I trim it, but I will trim it off the actual photo when I take the photo. And I think I'm just going to have to make a line across the top because I can't see it. So let's shorten it a bit. Make it about there. That will do. So now it's got a border around it. It doesn't look very even, but it'll do. Now I can see down the bottom here where I'm going to need to just fill up to a little bit with some of the seaweed there. So just doing that now. Okay, so let's start the background. No, let's not. We've got to, I might finish the bubbles off later. I have marked around them now. I'm coming in to start with Copenhagen blue, and I'm going to come into the shadow areas that are around the outside of her. First. So she's got some like little splotches and bubbles coming out and around her. So I'm going to line around the outside of her with it. Decided I'm just going to fill the bottom of this one out. To the very edge of the paper. I'm not pushing down the tooth, I'm just sort of giving it a nice even layer for now. I can't wait to see everybody's finished images either. It's gonna look fine. That's hair. I think it's hair coming down behind. It could be seaweed, who knows? But it's water now. I love this blue, it's really bright. Just trying to cover up any black lines that are left. I want to try to get rid of those if we can. I think most of them I have done, but there's some areas where the black line's still showing. Okay, so I filled out most of the bottom area with the blue, and now I just want to go around the head area. Hi Laura, have you been here the whole time? Did I miss you? I'm so sorry. I was talking about you before too. I still didn't see you pop up. Or did you just come in? Am I just not, you know? No way. Your images are awesome. You do really well in everything you do. Just checking, I'm coming up to about there, I think, roughly. Fill out that bottom bit there. So I'm just trying to make sure that each side is even. Oops, I went over her hair there. Not to worry. Just coming around like an aura around her head. Yeah, I'm glad we did that purple in there because that would have just blended out into the background too much, that bit, if I had have done it blue. Next colour is, I don't know, let's have a look. Peacock blue is the next one. Because I'm going sort of start down the bottom here. I want to try to fill out the tooth as much as possible down here now. So putting a little bit of pressure on. As you can tell, because I broke my pencil. It's not even heavy pressure either, because it's cold here at the moment. The pencils break very, very easily. I'm going to get a bit of smudging, so I might need my smudge glove. Well, I hope that these help you with the backgrounds, because I try to do quick and easy ones for you that look, you know, what do you call it? They look effective, but they're easier to do, if that makes any sense. Just needed to grab a drink then. Back to it. Just lightening up my pressure as I come up higher, because I want to blend to the next colour through these sections as well. just gradually get lighter until we get to the top. So just gone lighter already up here. Coming up a little bit further now. And now just coming over and around all of those other darker sections we've done, and just extending now into the open water sections. The great thing about adding bubbles and things in here as well, it's going to make it easier and less areas for you to cover in such a large, you know, amount. Like a big large area like that can be a little bit daunting. So just come and put a bubble in there, my dear. And it's already less daunting. Coming around the bubbles. So we've already filled in a gap by doing that. Hope that makes sense. It's also going to distract the eye if there are any areas that you've missed or aren't quite as smooth. Yeah, pastels are awesome. PanPastels are awesome. Anything that'll help cover up little imperfections, I'm in for. And is that the difference between being an awesome colorist and an average colorist? You know, is somebody who hides those imperfections and uses their tools to create magical looking, you know, things. It's not cheating. It's making things better. Okay? There is no cheating in art, unless you're doing outright forgery, of course. That's just bad. All right. Let's keep going. Actually, I think we need to go up a little bit further with the firmer pressure, because my next color is actually quite light. So just go a little bit firmer. And let's just go out a little bit further with this color as well. I'm going to go up. That looks good. Look about even. Yeah, that looks good. Hi Brian, welcome. Alright, the next color I've got is muted turquoise. If I can find it. Oh, there it is, hiding in my little holder, which they all should be, but you know, I'm just painfully messy sometimes. Painfully messy. Alright, muted turquoise. We're going to start down here, making sure we have definitely flattened off the tooth of the paper. Yes, shush. My pencil just complained. Perfect. Alright. We have now almost completely flat paper down here. here. See, if I was trying to colour this and I didn't have a border, I would be going out here somewhere, or perhaps not even go right or come in too close, not go out far enough. So when I start to go and play with it to take a photo, I'd be cropping and cropping and cropping just to catch, make sure I cut off the edges. So this way, drawing the border in, I'm not trying to catch up all the time on the edge. We can just crop it off. Okay, so it should start to look a little bit lighter as we come up here because we've only got the peacock blue in some of these areas. Yeah, it is hard. I understand. I find it hard keeping up with everybody. Especially when I'm, you know, trying to work on tutorials, and it's usually I find in the mornings when I get up and just before I go to bed is the time that I'll be able to get on and do things. So what I'm doing is I'm just pushing the wax around on the paper to make it look nice and smooth. Getting rid of all of those fine lines, those little white bumps. And hi Jade, welcome. Oh, raccoons. We don't have those here. We have possums, lots of possums, different types of possums that annoy us regularly. And mice and rats, that's about it. Isn't it funny how mice and rats are just everywhere? Those explorers brought them with them. Alright, now we want to blend the next colour in because it's really light. I'm just going to go up a little bit with light pressure with that peacock blue again. Just a little bit further. Gradually bringing it up to the top where we'll make it kind of light. Maybe a little bit further there. Pretty even. Helps if everything's even, but yeah, I'm happy with that. Alright, so now once I get up here, I'm still going to use heavy pressure around her head because all that's dark and we want to blend that all in now. But as I come up here, I'm actually going to lighten my pressure again. So we're going to do exactly what we did with the dark blue and the peacock blue. I'm going to come all the way up. So coming around dark around the bubbles and then lightening it up as we come towards the top. Go dark around the bubbles because we're flattening off that tooth now in those darker areas. Dark around her head, and then we're lightening up the pressure out in the open water again. Can hear kettle going, cupboards banging, sounds like it's food time. Must be morning tea time. Just lightening up my pressure as I come out. Making sense so far? Taking me a long time, but hey, we're nearly done. I'm gonna keep going until I finish this water, and then we'll be finished. Just have those bubbles to finish off, but you've all seen how to do the bubbles, so no stress there. All right. Caribbean Sea. Starting down here. Ah, not doing that if I can help it. What was that? Has anyone noticed that the quality of prismas has changed so much? I don't even know what that was. Anyway. Caribbean Sea. There's a bit of pigment that hadn't been blended properly within the pencil, I think. And I don't want to go in too heavy yet because my pencil's so sharp, I don't want to waste it. So I'm just going to blunt it down a bit by doing a light layer over the top of this. Coming in all the way to the top now, so it's nice and light at the top. And turn it upside down, that will help. We're coming up to where the sunlight's going to be in the water. So we're going to make this a lot lighter. We're going to add some white at the very top. Starting to get a little bit more blunt now, so I should be able to go in the bottom with a bit firmer pressure and just blend that out. I really do hope that you guys enjoyed this one, and a big huge thank you to Enys Guerrero for supplying us with this awesome image, and for doing this color along, being involved with prizes, and yeah, very exciting. So Dawn Davidson will be next week's. How's she looking? Let's just make sure that we have flattened the tooth out down the bottom here. Coming over the top, making sure that we filled all this area in. Looking good to me. This blue is like a periwinkle blue, I would say. That's what it reminds me of anyway. Amazing. If you got pastels and you prefer to use pastels in the background, then by all means do that as well. You could just do the same thing with pastel. You just start with the darkest at the bottom and then you just gradually bring it up until you get to the top. Any kind of dry pastel or oil pastel for that matter would do the same thing. I get such a sore hand doing backgrounds like this, and I would normally do a pastel background, but I know not everybody likes that, so look, it's added again. There's a bit of pigment there that's not quite blended through the pencil, and it was leaving darker lines. Try changing it to circular motions to see if we can get rid of that. Just going around each of these bubbles. Just making sure that I've done around her with firmer pressure, and then the rest of it I think we're going to be coming in now with white and just really lightening all of this up. Oh, thanks, Joey. Thanks so much. So I've got a couple of things I just wanted to show you before you all go. I've started a series using some of Laura's beautiful images for patrons. We'll be doing some light sourcing. Also, I've started this one here which you'll see more of on Monday. I've got lots going on. Also just finished a video for blending skin colors with markers. We had a few questions about blending E04 into the other colors, so I've done a video on that. It's only an hour one for patrons, so something to look forward to this week as well. Probably, actually, it might be early next week now, but it's there ready to go. Just got to get it all organized, upload it. I think I'm actually happy with how that's sort of coming out now, and I'm pretty sure now I'm going to come in with white, and I'm just going to soften all the rest of it off. You can use a white Prismacolor pencil. I'm actually going to use Luminance because it's a bit bigger and it goes a bit quicker. Oh, thanks, Cheryl. It's a bit larger surface area. The lead's larger. And it's a little bit more opaque, so I'm going to use that to make my life a little bit easier. And I'm just going to make the top of the page fairly white. Oh my goodness, my hand is killing me now. Look like the surface of the water yet. It's like that, you know, kids, are we there yet? Are we there yet? That's what it feels like when doing a background like this. I'm just bringing it down into the darker area, so looks like it's fading out into that background. And keeping it on a side to side kind of angle so it looks like the top of the water as well. Because the water will have horizontal lines across it. They wouldn't be round or circular, they'd all, you know, because the ripples of the water will be going across. They might be going slightly diagonal in some areas, but pretty much going to go across the page instead of down. All the way down there. A couple of areas I can still see some hand tone paper. Just coming down behind her a little bit, all the way down here. Okay, I'm going to use the Prismacolor white. There's a couple of areas that I need to fill in, and the Luminance is a little bit too hard. I think it's because of the weather. Interesting, hey? So just using this to grab those bits that it wasn't getting. And also we're going to come in with the bubbles now. So using the turquoise, before I do that, I'm just going to put a little bit of that periwinkle blue into the bubble on this side here. I think that it needs some of that background colour through there a little bit. Just blending that back out again, smudging it all through. A bit of the peacock blue around the outside. We want to be able to see some of that water coming through, so I think that's just going to help that a little bit more. Got the darker green at the bottom and then the lighter at the top with the blue. That's better. So a little bit of turquoise in these top ones. I'm just going to go around the outside with them again with the peacock blue this time. That's a bubble I made. It's very uneven. Should have got the template out to do that one, I think. Going to put a little bit of the Caribbean Sea in there first this time. And then coming in with white to blend all that in. So I'm just going to go around the outside first and then blend my way in. I just had that Rolling in the Deep song just pop into my head. I can't sing. Oh dear. And then some white. Just blending out around them a little bit more. So white, adding that little highlight on there. These ones are tiny, so we're just going to be doing a little spot. And just to make it look a little bit more, I don't know, make it sparkly, add some water, floaties, Couple of larger ones, make them look like larger bubbles. And we are done. Now I am going to go in and just add some more skin color down the bottom here so it blends to the airy edge. But that's pretty much all I'll do off camera. But I hope you enjoyed this one, guys, and look out in the group for the next one, and I'll be posting it up on Patreon as well, and I will see you on Monday. Monday. Big thank you for hanging around, guys. Talk to you next time. Thank you again to Enys. Make sure that you post your pictures and tag her as well. Thank you. Thanks, guys. I'll scan it up and I'll post it up for you as well so you can see it. Thanks again. Bye, guys.